Iroh, pretty much everybody's favourite character from Avatar. He's just a gentle old man who wants to promote harmony in the world and drink tea. There's no way he'd be dangerous. Right? Iroh, Dragon of the West, is a red legendary human noble ally creature 4/4 with haste and mentor, who grants all your creatures with counters firebending 2 until end of turn at the start of combat. Now, this may not be as easily broken as Grand Lotus or as charming and silly as Tea Master, but what this card does do is pack a punch. If built right, Iroh basically gives your whole team firebending, and thus the ability to generate some just absurd levels of red mana in your combat phase. And you know, red doesn't exactly struggle for instant speed coloured mana outlets now, does it? The main issue with this card, though, is that it requires counters, and well, mono red is possibly the colour that's worst for counter spreading. So, how do we rectify this? Incredibly simply, frankly. As much as red is the worst counter colour, it still has options, and some really good ones at that. For example, some real constructed powerhouses lie within this archetype, things like Inti, Lelia, and Runaway Steamkin. You've also got a few more like commander-focused bombs, like Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin, Thundering Raiju, and Vincent Vengeful Atoner. And these are just scratching the surface. You've also got a bunch of colourless options like the good old modular creatures and Stonecoil Serpent. Or how about the fact you've got access to equipment that spreads counters, like the Conformer Shuriken and Pip-Boy 3000? Or how's about the powerful counter spreaders in red? Yes, they're few and far between, but they are there. Think Kami of Celebration or Uncivil Unrest. And I've only been talking about +1/+1 counters so far, but Iroh doesn't specify, and so silly cards like Exuberant Fuseling and Rotisserie Elemental, which have other types of counters natively, are also more than welcome here. And I'm going to leave this image of Spectacular Showdown here for no reason in particular. Turns out counters aren't that hard in red. Of course, this is all well and good, but you do also need to get your board through, lest your turn become the magic equivalent of the charge of the Light Brigade. Generally, you want your creatures to, survive combat. And thankfully, red has plenty of options for this as well. War Cadence is a particularly nasty one for this deck, being able to take full advantage of the generated mana at instant speed. But also cards like Sundering Eruption, Bedlam, and Invasion Plans can also massively contribute to the survivability of your board. Additionally, you can always just play some mind games with your opponents. They don't know what's in your hand when you're generating your absurd levels of mana, and so why not play some combat tricks? A well-timed Fated Firepower or Weapon Surge could really mess up somebody's day, and so your opponents will often not block out of fear for their board being torn to shreds, especially if you've already revealed a combat trick or two prior in combat. And then of course you have the big mana payoffs, and these are pretty much seasoned to taste. Do what you want. So long as they're instant speed and can use red mana, an Iroh board generates so much mana that costs become a triviality. Play a Magma Quake or Pyrohemia to wipe boards and whittle life totals. Cast a Comet Storm or Fall of the Titans for that tasty one-shot. Pour mana into a Savage Beating or Great Train Heist to simply do it all over again. Spam out a Horde of Dragons with Gorogoro or Dragon Whisperer. Buff your board to absurd levels with Moonveil Dragon and Mercadia's Downfall. It's fully up to you. Overall, this iteration of Iroh is a brilliant card that opens a bunch of possibility for janky red counters builds with all sorts of crazy win cons. And I think that the fact that he's been overshadowed by his other iterations, while understandable, is a shame. So if you're interested in firebending and none of the other commanders that have it were quite doing it for you, give Iroh a shot. He's worth it.